Today we're here with Jaye, Jaye Beebe, Dyne, and Charlie. Charlie, can you give us your full name and your age?
Charles Wesley Curtis. Wesley was after my grandfather. My grandfather also was a Wesley. And my age is 89.
And I forgot to tell us the day. It is April 3rd, 2025. Jaye, do you have some questions for Charlie?
You're a long-time Parker, right?
Yes, practically all my life, although I just learned when I was born, there was a year when I didn't live in the Lawrence Park.
So when were you born?
August 13th, 1935.
And where were you born?
I was born in Lawrence Park, but then my parents moved to East Lake Road and Brandy Street for a year, and then they moved back into 831 Priestley Avenue.
And you're still living there?
Oh, I'm still there.
What are your first memories of the park?
Oh God, my first memories of the park is when we were youngsters, and when you knew everybody in the neighborhood. You knew the kid. We had a lot of kids. You knew the people. There's the Roth family who lived in back of me on Rankin, and there's a Mustard family who lived up the street from me, and there's the Kickstack family who lived across the street from me. I mean, you knew everybody, and we were all good friends. And nowadays, you don't know who lives next door to you.
And where'd you go to school?
Good old Lawrence Park High School.
And before that?
That was it.
Well, what about for elementary school?
Well, the elementary school on Priestley Avenue, and I went through all of my life through kindergarten right through 6th grade. And then I went over to the Lawrence Park High School. I went through from 7th to 12th grade.
And 1st through 6th was literally right across the street.
Oh yes, it was very easy to get to. I always remember the old Priestley Avenue School had a bell that they rang every morning when you went to school. When it was time to go, and when it was time to go into the school, there was a bell, which is now the bell on the Bell Park there on off East Lake Road there in Priestley.
What teachers do you remember from Priestley Avenue
Gosh,
School?
there was Mrs. Oh Lord, Mr. Massel was over there. He was an industrial arts teacher. Mrs. Drury, I think D-R-U-R-Y, and oh boy, Mr. Hoffman was the principal of the school. I really can't think offhand. Mrs. Hayes was another teacher. I remember Mrs. Hayes.
And then what teachers do you remember from your high school days?
Oh boy, there's quite a few of them. There's Mrs. Scala, of course. Everybody remembers Mrs. Scala. And then I'm trying to remember who the gym teacher was. Mr. Yost. He was the gym teacher at that time. And then Mr. Finnessy, Mrs. Puffenberg, and I think Mr. Scala was the principal at that time. H.K. Drodes was the assistant, if I remember rightly.
Other way around.
Was it the other way around? Okay, could be.
What was your favorite class?
Oh, I can tell you what the worst one was math. I was horrible in math. I really don't know what my favorite one. I can't remember a favorite class.
Who taught you math?
Mr. Brown, B-R-O-W-N. He was a good math teacher, but I was lousy in math. My dad was excellent at math because he was an engineer over at the GE. And the one story I always remember, I came home one night with 10 math problems to do, and he would spend a whole hour or more on doing just one to make sure that I knew what I was doing. And I had to keep reminding my dad, I got 9 more questions to do, answers to do. But math was my worst class.
What did you do outside of class?
I was pretty much, when I was in high school, I didn't participate in any sports, which I now regret. I ended up being a paper boy for the Erie Daily Times at that time, and my route was mostly on Priestley Avenue. So that's basically what I did. A lot of the kids in the neighborhood, we used to get together, and a wide space right across the street, right across where the old school used to be. We used to always get together and play football in that wide area of the street there. But other than that, you know, we did the usual young things that young kids did. Kick the ball, things like that. Jacks. Nobody plays that anymore, jacks and things like that. But we kids were all pretty close friends together as far as we knew everybody in the neighborhood.
When did your parents come or grandparents come to what becomes Lawrence Park?
Grandparents came back. I was just looking up yesterday. They were the first house on Rankin Avenue to build on the west side of Rankin Avenue. And they lived there, and then they had to move down to the street to 820 Rankin Avenue for some reason. I can't remember what it was, but they had to move down the street to 820 Rankin, where they stayed until they passed away.
And what brought them here?
Well, my grandfather was he originally worked for the GE in Massachusetts, and then he was transferred here to the local GE plant here.
Do you remember what year that was?
Oh, no, I don't. I don't know offhand.
I can provide that information. According to the bio that Charlie just provided today, his grandparents came in 1912.
Yes, they were here very, very early.
Now, are these?
In fact, the thing I remember, my mother, I remember her dad always took her down to the 4 Mile Creek Fairgrounds, and she always used to tell me about the fairgrounds down there at 4 Mile Creek. They'd walk down there, grandfather and her, they'd walk down to the 4 Mile Creek.
So this is your mother's side?
Yes.
This is the Gillespie side?
Right. Yes, they were here very, very early. He planned here.
Do you remember what year that was?
Oh, no, I don't. I don't know offhand.
I can provide that information. According to the bio that Charlie just provided today, his grandparents came in 1912.
Yes, they were here very, very early.
Now, are these?
In fact, the thing I remember, my mother, I remember her dad always took her down to the 4 Mile Creek Fairgrounds, and she always used to tell me about the fairgrounds down there at 4 Mile Creek. They'd walk down there, grandfather and her, they'd walk down to the 4 Mile Creek.
So this is your mother's side?
Yes.
This is the Gillespie side?
Right, the Gillespies.
Did the Curtis family come at about the same time?
Let's see. I'm not sure. Yes, they were here very, very early.
Now, are these?
In fact, the thing I remember, my mother, I remember her dad always took her down to the 4 Mile Creek Fairgrounds, and she always used to tell me about the fairgrounds down there at 4 Mile Creek. They'd walk down there, grandfather and her, they'd walk down to the 4 Mile Creek.
So this is your mother's side?
Yes.
This is the Gillespie side?
Right, the Gillespies.
Did the Curtis family come at about the same time?
Let's see. I'm not sure. I can't be exactly sure. I think that pretty much happened when my mother came here and worked at the GE. And my dad came in here, a little before that. Don't know exactly when, but he came here a little before that.
Where was your dad born and raised?
They met at the boarding. My dad was at Mom Thompson's boarding place there, and that's where she met my mother, and that's how they got to know each other.
And where was your dad born?
He was born in Culpeper, Virginia, although his sister lived in Fredericksburg, but that's where he spent most of his time.
And your Curtis grandparents?
They were from Massachusetts.
So they came to Lawrence Park?
Right. Yeah, they both of them came from Massachusetts.
And where did the Curtis family live? Your grandparents?
Well, that was a Gillespie family.
But your Curtis grandparents.
Okay.
Your dad's,
My dad's grandparents.
Your dad's parents.
They lived in Virginia. They lived in Virginia.
But did they come?
I didn't know that. No.
Okay.
No. I never really knew them that well because they stayed down in Virginia.
as a child, did the playgrounds exist, Charlie? Did you go play at the playground?
Yes, the playground was there when I was born. It was down there. I don't know what year it was put in, but it was put in there before I think I was even born. So that playground's been there for a long, long, long time.
Okay, and you're talking about the playground off of Napier Avenue by the police.
Right. And of course, remember, well, I used to run the playground. I ran the playground down there for 6 years. And I used to have anywhere 30 to 40 kids every morning and every afternoon. And now there's nobody down there anymore. Nobody goes down, unfortunately, nobody goes down anymore.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Oh, yeah, I had 2 brothers and a sister. My sister has passed away, and one of my brothers has also passed away. And I still have a brother who lives in outside Fort Worth, Texas.
And they all went to Lawrence Park High School as well?
Yes, they all went to Lawrence Park. Lawrence Park forever.
What did you do when you graduated from Lawrence Park?
Well, after I graduated, my first job, as I say, was a paper boy. And, oh no, I'll take that back. My first job was, I was the first employee of the Lawrence Park Dairy Queen, ran by Reed Woods. And I was his one and only employee. And Reed Woods was a very special guy. I mean, he was a very easy to go guy. And so my first job there was at the Dairy Queen. And the one incident I remember at the Dairy Queen, I was working the ice cream machine, and a car came in from the east side and very, very slowly came right through the doggone side window. Very slowly, thank goodness. But that's the one thing I do remember about the Dairy Queen.
Do you remember who owned or drove the car?
No, I have no idea who that happened to be at the time, but it was a little scary for a minute. But fortunately, he was going very, very slow because he was just coming into park. But
and after that, where did you work?
okay, immediately went. I started work at the Boston store, and my initial job was in the layaway department as a stock boy. And over the years, I worked my way up into I was assistant men's clothing buyer on the main floor, and eventually I ended up as the head boys and men's buyer in the basement of the Boston store. Awesome place.
And was that your last job?
No. I left the Boston store after 23 years. I was at the Boston store for 23 years.
And
Okay.
after the Boston store?
I went over to the sports store across the street and started out in the team area in the old sports store on the second floor. And I eventually ended up as the buyer for footwear in the sports store, where I ended up retiring at the age of 62.
And what year was that?
Oh boy, no, I can't honestly tell you, I can't remember. Dates are bad for me.
And after working for a living, you became very involved in Lawrence Park athletics, did you not?
Yes, but especially athletics, and especially in the basketball program. I started working under Tom Berenger Jr. in the Biddy League basketball program in 1953, actually. And I stayed with him, and I was with him. I coached, was involved in coaching the Biddy League basketball for about 40 years, until I couldn't move anymore, and I keep up with the kids, and so I had to really give it up. But I still try to stay very much involved with the sports programs in general, especially basketball. But I go to events, plays, and musicals, and so forth too. I try to stay involved. The young kids over the years is what kept me going. If it wasn't for the young kids, I doubt if I'd be here now.
So the Biddy League basketball program you and Coach Behringer began in Coach Behringer's first year
Right.
here.
He began in his first year, and basically, I basically over the years I had fortunately had a number of other coaches. In fact, a couple from Harbor Creek came and helped me out over the years, and I had a staff I thought was better than most varsity basketball teams in the county. We had some very good kids that came up through that program, and I still stay in contact with quite a few of them over the years.
And that Biddy League program eventually produced a very successful high school basketball program.
Exactly. The Biddy League program was a very important part of Tom Behringer's eventual record. I mean, and he had a record second to none. Of the 23 years he was in there, he was only had 2 losing seasons. His first year at Lawrence Park and his first year at Iroquois. And other than that, all the rest of them were winning seasons.
And pardon the side note, that first year at Iroquois was a 500 season.
Yes.
It wasn't even a losing season, so we only had 1 losing season. That's pretty incredible.
Oh, he had a very, very impressive, which is hard for any coach to try and meet nowadays.
What happened to him?
Well, he came down in his later years. You could see a little change in him, and in fact, his later years, he got a technical at a basketball game, and he never got technicals at basketball games. So I could see a little bit he was failing. I don't know exactly what his health issues were, but he eventually had to give it up, which is too bad, because basketball really hasn't been the same since.
It turned out to be brain cancer.
Yeah, it could. Yeah.
Pardon again, another side note. What other memories do you have of other sports at Lawrence Park?
Well, I follow the other sports, but I don't have any specific memory. As I mentioned, I had the one football game. It was out at Harbor Creek. We were playing Union City, and I remember I was sitting at the end of the field. And we were beating Union City. It's 50 or something to nothing, and we drove all the way down to about their 5 or 6 yard line, and we got down there. And rather than go for a touchdown, I think the boy's name is Lucor. He kicked the first field goal in the Erie County's history, and I always remembered that. I can remember where I was sitting everywhere at that particular game.
What else have you done since you retired other than Biddy League basketball and following Lawrence Park and Iroquois activities?
Well, other than that, I really can't say I've done much more, except I was supervisor for at the playground for 6 years, which I enjoyed very much, and we always had very good attendance. I always had 35 to 40 kids every morning and every afternoon. We had games, contests. We had prizes, but the playground is down and out. They can't find anybody to run the playground anymore, and so it's basically shut down now, unfortunately.
Have you done anything for other organizations? I'm thinking the Historical Society.
Well, I'm a charter member of the Lawrence Park WILP. The WILP. I'm a charter member of that, and I've been with that ever since it was instituted, and I pretty much brought into that because I knew all the athletes and everything that were, and I pretty much had knowledge. So that was what I was. In fact, the man that ran it was Bill Vorjek, which was a classmate of mine, and he more or less is the one that got me involved into the WILP program.
WILP is Wesleyville, Iroquois, and Lawrence Park Athletic Hall of Fame. In 1966, Wesleyville and Lawrence Park High Schools discontinued. They had merged into Iroquois High School. So this is a merger of the
Right.
Hall of Fame athletes from both 3 schools.
Yes. And so it's been very nice. It's nice to see all these new people that get involved, get inducted every year. People sometimes I haven't seen in years. And it's been a very, very important. And Bill Vorshig had passed away, unfortunately. As I say, he was a classmate of mine. But we're still continuing to run the program, as his wife wants to continue it because that's what Bill would wanted.
Totally different subject now. What do you remember of the relationship between Lawrence Park and General Electric?
Well, over the time, I think the relationship was very, very good in the early years. In the later years, I think it got a little sour. But for the most part, we had to depend on GE. GE was our financial institution that kept Lawrence Park going. And if they didn't have GE, there would be no Lawrence Park.
What have been some of the changes you've watched and noticed over your years here?
Oh, the biggest, well, the changes I've mentioned before, you used to know your next door neighbor, and you knew most everybody in the neighborhood. Now you don't. And that's very disappointing because we were always a close-knit community before, and I don't think it's that way anymore. And of course the business district has changed. I remember some of the old places. One of the old John the barber. He was my barber over the years, and then of course there was the Kellogg's Pharmacy, and I remember in fact a couple of his boys went through school over at Lawrence Park, and it's changes like that. It's just not the same like it used to be, but.
What do you remember about the neighborhoods that are now Lake Cliff and the Crotty subdivision?
Very, very little about that. I can remember about the Catholic Church. There was nothing but woods between the Catholic Church and down to East Lake Road, except on Smithson Avenue. And we as kids, there was a boy, his name was Ronnie, and I can't think of his name. He lived on the corner of Nagel and East Lake Road. And we always used to travel through the woods. There was woods down there. Was a path that went down to his house from the Catholic Church down to his house. And there used to be a pond there called, I think we called it the Frog Pond, if I remember rightly. And we made that walk, as kids, we made that walk quite a few times down there.
What do you remember about 4 Mile Creek?
Well, the only thing I can remember the one thing about 4 Mile Creek is when they had a flood one year and you could only see the top pinnacle of the building. There was so much water that came down that creek that you could only see the top part of the building. And I said, many years ago, it used to be a much more active place than it is, unfortunately, than it is now.
This is maybe not a fair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you have a favorite Parker?
I can't go and say that. I have so many kids over the years that people over the years I've come to know, and they're all a lot of them are pretty much favorites. I can't say I have any particular favorite individual out of the whole crew. I'm very lucky. A lot of the people that graduated that I've known over the years still keep in touch with me. I mean, I have 2 people now that either phone me or email me at least once a week that graduated probably 40, 50 years ago. And that's what it was all about, working, being around all the young kids over the years and making all these friendships.
Thank you, Charlie. It's been fun.